After 15 years of marriage, my wife got ready for a night out. She carefully dressed, preparing for a date, not with me, but with her lover. As she leaned close, she softly whispered, "Jake, I need to feel young and free again tonight." What she didn't realize was that I had already packed her bags and changed the locks on the doors. Meanwhile, her lover's wife sat waiting at a restaurant, divorce papers in hand, ready to confront both of them. When my wife expressed her desire to feel wild again, I knew those words weren't meant for me. But what she didn't expect was that her perfect night was about to become a nightmare. These chilling words come from Jake, a loyal contractor and loving husband living in suburban Ohio. For 15 years, Jake and his wife Emily seemed to have the perfect life. They raised 2 children, shared many family dinners, and faced the ups and downs of marriage together. But recently, something had changed. The warmth in their relationship had become cold and distant. Late nights at work, secret phone calls, and the constant glow of her phone during late hours replaced the intimate moments they used to share. Jake noticed the changes almost immediately, always attentive. He couldn't ignore Emily's increasingly vague and evasive answers when he asked what was going on. As the cracks in their relationship grew, Jake's mind filled with questions. Was she unhappy? Was he losing her? Instead of facing his growing worries, Jake tried to convince himself it was just a rough patch, something they would get through, like they always had. But Emily's need to feel young and free was about to break their world in ways neither of them could have imagined. The small changes in Emily's behavior only deepened Jake's suspicions. She spent more time on her phone, often smiling at messages she never shared. She started dressing up more often, without any clear reason. These shifts weighed heavily on Jake's heart. The turning point came one evening when Jake overheard part of a phone conversation. Though he couldn't make out the exact words, the intimate tone was undeniable. Later, he saw a flirtatious text on her phone. That moment confirmed his worst fears and shook his faith in their marriage. Unable to confront her directly, Jake's anxiety grew silently. He began observing Emily's actions, taking note of her new habits. Her errands took longer than usual, absences went unexplained, and entire hours of her day were unaccounted for. Each observation added to his growing dread. As he pieced together the puzzle, Jake realized the truth was darker than he had feared. Something was deeply wrong. Left with no choice, he decided to uncover the full truth, no matter what it took. Sitting alone in the quiet of their living room, Jake reflected on their 15 years of marriage, the memories of love, laughter, and raising their children together. The ache in his chest grew, but amidst the heartbreak, he resolved to act carefully. A rash confrontation would only lead to chaos. In this moment of clarity, Jake uncovered an unexpected detail that changed everything. Emily's lover was also married. This discovery sparked a plan. Instead of confronting Emily alone, Jake decided to reach out to the man's wife. Together, they could uncover the full extent of the betrayal and hold their spouses accountable. Fueled by a new sense of purpose, Jake began setting his plan in motion. Determined to confront the affair with calmness and decisiveness, Jake shifted from heartbreak to quiet resolve. The truth about Emily's infidelity was undeniable, and it was time to act. Jake waited for the right moment, which came when Emily was upstairs, busy preparing for her anticipated date. She was unaware of the storm brewing beneath her feet as she spent hours getting ready. Meanwhile, Jake began putting his plan into action. He started by packing Emily's belongings into suitcases. Each item placed inside felt like a final goodbye to the life they had built together. The packed bags were neatly arranged by the front door, a silent yet powerful statement marking the end of their marriage. Next, Jake changed the locks on all the doors. Each turn of the key echoed through the quiet house, a symbolic gesture of closing one chapter and protecting himself and their children from further harm. With the house ready for Emily's departure, Jake took the next step. Jake contacted the wife of Emily's lover. The conversation felt surreal, yet also freeing. They confirmed what they had suspected. The betrayal ran deep on both sides. United by shared pain and determination, they agreed to meet at the restaurant where their spouses planned to rendezvous. Together, they would expose the truth. As the clock ticked closer to that fateful evening, Jake felt an unexpected calm settle over him. The fiery rage that had once consumed him was now replaced by a steely resolve. He knew the aftermath would be messy, but there was comfort in knowing he was reclaiming his dignity and control over the situation. The evening arrived, and Emily was filled with excitement, completely unaware of the chaos awaiting her. She carefully selected her outfit, dressing in a way Jake hadn't seen in years. Her enthusiasm was thinly veiled behind vague excuses about the event she claimed to be attending. As she prepared to leave, she turned to Jake with a sly smile and whispered, "I need to feel young and wild again tonight." The words struck Jake like a dagger, but he held his composure, offering nothing more than a silent, knowing look. As the door clicked shut behind her, he stood motionless, watching her car disappear down the street. His mind raced with memories of their life together. The laughter, the struggles, and the love that had once bound them. In that moment, 15 years of marriage unraveled before his eyes. At the restaurant, Jake's plan unfolded. Emily's lover arrived first, expecting a romantic evening. Instead, he was met by his furious wife, divorce papers in hand. Her voice rose in anger as she demanded answers, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. What had been planned as a private affair quickly turned into a humiliating public confrontation. Moments later, Emily arrived, excitement evident on her face. But the joy vanished when she saw the scene before her. She froze. Her carefully planned evening crumbled in an instant. Her lover stood cornered, facing the wrath of his wife, while nearby diners watched in shock. The reality of her choices hit her like a tidal wave. The glamorous night she had envisioned was now a public disaster. As Emily's night spiraled into chaos, Jake's carefully orchestrated plan continued to unfold with precision. Back at home, he sat in silence, waiting. He knew Emily would soon return, only to face the reality of her packed belongings by the door and the locks that no longer granted her entry. Sure enough, her frantic calls began. Each voicemail escalated in desperation. Pleas, apologies, and manipulative attempts to gain sympathy flooded Jake's phone. But he remained resolute, ignoring every message. He focused solely on moving forward and rebuilding the life Emily's betrayal had tried to destroy. Meanwhile, at the restaurant, the storm raged on. The lover's wife, armed with evidence and years of bottled-up frustration, took charge of the situation. She didn't just confront her husband about the affair. She ensured that both he and Emily were publicly humiliated. Turning her attention to Emily, she dismantled every excuse with cold, irrefutable facts. The restaurant patrons, stunned by the unfolding drama, watched in silence. Their whispered conversations added weight to the moment, amplifying the humiliation Emily and her lover faced. For Jake, hearing about the fallout brought a bittersweet sense of closure. Emily and her lover were forced to face the consequences of their actions, not just privately, but under the harsh spotlight of public scrutiny. What once felt like insurmountable cracks in Jake's life now appeared as opportunities to rebuild something stronger. Though the pain of betrayal still lingered, Jake began to see this moment as the start of a new chapter, one free from lies, deception, and the person who shattered his trust. As the dust settled, Jake reflected on the whirlwind of events that had brought him to this point. Exposing Emily's betrayal wasn't just an act of revenge. It was a way to reclaim his dignity and find the closure he so desperately needed. While the ache of losing 15 years of marriage remained, Jake took comfort in knowing he hadn't let betrayal define him. Facing the truth, though excruciating, became a turning point in his life. Looking back, Jake realized that while Emily's actions fractured the foundation of their marriage, the events also freed Jake. Now, he had the opportunity to rebuild his life on his own terms. With quiet determination, He resolved to focus on healing and finding the peace that had eluded him for so long. In his final reflection, Jake shared a powerful message. Sometimes, the hardest truths lead to the strongest resolutions. Betrayal may break you, but it can also set you free. As the story concluded, Jake turned to his audience with a question. What would you have done in my situation? He invited them to share their thoughts in the comments below. He ended with a heartfelt call to action. Thank you for being a part of my story. If it moved you, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing. By subscribing, you're not just supporting a channel. You're joining a community that values meaningful storytelling. Let's continue exploring these heartfelt journeys together. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. With that, Jake's story shifted from personal reflection to a shared experience, leaving his audience with a lingering question to ponder and an invitation to connect.